to say transfer out.
All right, so let's talk about our culminating activity for early completion option and year 2. No one here tonight is a year 1, correct? Very good. All right, so why do we have to do this? Why am I making you go through one more hoop? Well, we want you to be able to articulate why you think you're a better teacher now than when you were in August. And it's not just a, I think I'm a good teacher, I feel good about where I'm at, my parents didn't complain about me, my principal gave me a thumbs up on the way out the door. We're going to look at data. We're going to look at hard, concrete facts so that you can celebrate and go, wow, this is where I was, and this is where I am, and it's right here in black and white on the paper. We want you to articulate why you believe you're a better teacher. We want you to take a victory lap. We want to celebrate with you. So I will tell you that this process, I wish I could make it so that you won't be nervous, but I know you will. We do the best that we can to help you with that, but some of you just said, I wanted to be a 3rd grade teacher so you didn't have to speak in front of adults. I get it. But we want to celebrate with you, and I want to let you know that this is not an opportunity for us to get you. This is not a gotcha point. This is about a mutual celebration of where you're at, okay? And we take information and inform the program of areas that we still have to grow. So we pour over the information that we get from the culminating activity and your journals and the surveys and multiple other places and look and say, we need to do something about this. We can make this better. One of the things that we've done this year is get ready for the new standards, which you don't even have to worry about because you're covered under the old standards. Except that going forward, you're going to be evaluated under the new standards, probably starting in 2026. But we did take feedback from you regarding journals, and so at the very least, we heard you, and we're making changes, and the journals are going to look very different next year going forward. So it feels less like a check the box kind of a thing and more of a reflection. And for instance, we took out the just-in-time questions and response. Though actually the questions are still there, we're making the mentors write on their collaboration log what they're talking about. But induction candidates, for instance, will no longer talk about just-in-time. So I say all that to say we're constantly making changes and trying to move the program just like you're making changes and trying to improve your teaching practice. Okay, dates. You should have by now received an email from Jessica to sign up for a date. Hopefully you responded so you get your choice. So our, excuse me, our ECOs and 2nd years actually go first so that we have time to mitigate any issues before school gets out. And then 1st years will come after you. Mentors, we're asking you to come and sign up for 2 of the panels. Now you can choose to come to a 2nd year, or if you want to come to a 1st year, either way is good with me. I need people on both sides. But sign up with Jessica. I think the dates are on your agenda. Yep. Along with their email and office phone number. So anybody not get that email yet? All right.
Just sign up.
Just sign up? Okay. Mentors, did you get one? Okay. So we'll make sure you get that. I forgot.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get started with our presentations, we are going to be doing a deep dive with Google Classroom, and we're making this a requirement that every and all issues are resolved prior to your exit interview. Presentation. Okay. That includes anything that might have gotten a half point, or you turned in and got graded and got a 0, and the reader said, please resubmit with this information. All of that has to be resolved before you can do your presentation. So this, and she can't finish the induction program without finishing all these assignments. All right. Hopefully, we've worked hard with our readers to correct some of the issues that we've had. There's still some lingering issues, but we're working with them to make sure everything is ready to go. Okay. All right. What's the format? Your presentations are going to be 20 minutes long. Actually, your presentation minutes will be limited to 20 minutes. Okay? In the past, we found that most people go 18 to 21. So you'll need all the time to go through all of your stuff. I would encourage you to practice more than once so that you're ready to go. I mentioned that you're going to be nervous. When you get nervous, several things happen. One is you forget to say things, and all of a sudden your 20-minute presentation becomes 12. Or you think you're forgetting things, so you add along the way, and your 20-minute presentation becomes 30 minutes. So just know this, that the panel is going to have time cards, and they're going to say 15 minutes, 18 minutes, 19 minutes, to let you know and to help you stay on pace. If it looks like you need 30, 45 more seconds, the panel's going to be fine. If it looks like you need 6 or 7 or 8 minutes, they're going to cut you off. Okay? So shoot for that 20-minute mark. We're going to send you the scores via email the next day. So the panel's not going to tell you that night what's going on. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that you are very passionate people, and you may want to have a discussion with the panel as to why you didn't get a passing score. And that could cause a log jam with all the other presentations that night, but also a little awkward. So we're not going to let that happen. They're going to say thank you, and we'll give you the scores the next day. In the past, people have asked, can we have our rubrics? Because they want to know their score. And did I get a perfect 27? Actually, I think the rubric it needs to be corrected. Did I get a perfect 27? How come I got 26 out of 27? We're not going to send you the rubrics. The other issue is that we have 175 people in induction. Scanning the rubrics, emailing them to individually would take a lot of hours, and there's just there's not a lot of bang for buck on that one. So the rubrics will not be shared. Here's the results. There's one of two results. One is you've met the standard. Yay! And since we know by that point all of your Google work has been turned in and you've gotten a thumbs up, you know that once you have passed and met the standard, that your recommendation is going to be coming shortly after that. Or you haven't met the standard yet. Notice we're not saying fail, come back for a third year. That's not the case. One of two things will happen. Most of the time, it's just a phone call, and you and I will talk on the phone, and I'll drill down and ask some more questions in areas that indicated that we're missing, and clarify something, and tell me more about your focus student here, or whatever it is that I might have a question about. And then once I'm satisfied, then we'll move on. In rare occasions, and I want to think over the last 6 years, there's been 5 or 6. It'll never happen to anybody at this table, but there was some with complete disasters, and we made them come back and present again. It rarely happens. It happens to the person that has constantly been late all year, and they spent all the spring break redoing all the assignments that we've been asking to do since October, and then when they want to do the presentation, it's not authentic, and the panel can read it. If you've done your work on time and turned it in, or at least close to on time, you're going to be fine. So, questions about that? You do not need to bring your laptop. We will have laptops available, and in this room it'll be the screen. We'll be in my office with a big computer monitor, and another office with a big computer monitor. The computers will be provided for you so that we don't have internet access. So for instance, I have a nice fancy guest password, and it doesn't work. right? So that would be awful if you came to present, I can't get on the internet, what are we gonna do? Or I don't have the right dangle, ¿cómo se dice dangle?
Dongle.
Is that how you?
Dongle.
Dongle? Doohickey? We want to make sure there's no click. So that's why your presentation must be submitted into the Google Classroom so that you can access it. So we'll put this up so you can sign in, boom, in, out, away we go. If worst case comes to that, I can sign in and continue the presentation.
Can I use my laptop since we're doing my presentation at my site, and I have all the stuff?
You won't need it. We'll
won't need it?
We'll have a computer available for you. Same
Okay.
idea, same, log it in, good to
Okay.
go. We'll even have a little presenter. Dad's a part of Madera Unified, and we have worked with our Madera Unified teachers. We're actually going to pull them out of class and do their presentation on site. There's too many schools to try to do that in the county. So especially if I went to Chow High and I got 3 people there. So he's coming to TJ where we have, I think, 15 people lined up that day. 10, something like that. TJ, right? You taking TJ?
Okay.
Okay. It was one of the 2 misses. It's close. All right. Okay. I would recommend coming early, especially if you're the 3rd or 4th interview of the day, because if we get ahead and we have an opportunity to put you in the room ahead of time, we're going to do it. We want to get our mentors home as fast as possible. They don't want to be here till 9:30, and neither do I. So come early, and there's a place to sit, be a drink if you want, and go from there. All right, those are emails. All right, let's take a look at the rubric and the directions. All right, so you have, in front of you also have the template. And notice that it says delete the slide. So here's the directions that we're giving you. I will, somebody asked me, can I use Canva instead of using the PowerPoint? Turns out that Canva is compatible with Google Classroom, so I mean, if that's what you want to do. The requests have come in, can we personalize this? Can we make it our own? I mean, it's our presentation. We're celebrating my career. Can we do all those kind of things? I'll tell you, yes, but a couple of thoughts. One, we're not grading you on what it looks like, but on the content. So if you want to bejewel it, bedazzle it, and make it spin on its axis, okay. But some of that can actually be distracting. Okay? The second thing I want to tell you is that your presentation should be like your notes. You are allowed to bring notes. We don't want you to read, though, as if you're making a speech, but you're making a presentation. And they should be bullet points and not, you know, writing it all out and then you're turning to the slide and reading the slide. Okay? So we want you to think about that should be your notes, and if you practiced it enough, right, it just kind of prompts what you're supposed to say versus turning to the screen and reading it. So interact with the panel, look at them, and have fun with it. Okay. So you'll read those directions and then delete the slide. Slide 1 is just who you are. We even give you a point for this on your rubric. Yay, yay, yay. And like I said, I think there are a total of 27 points possible, and you need, I think, 21 out of 27. You can score a 2. Oh, sorry, a 2 on most of the questions meets the standard, and a 3 exceeds the standard. with the thought that if you got a 1 someplace, you can make it up with a 3 later on. So you need to average. There's a couple of them that are just 1-pointers, but most of them are worth 3. And we need you to get a 2. All right. Where it says 1 slide maximum, what do you think you should do to that?
Delete it.
Delete it, right? This is all important. So fill in all the information and then delete that little box. Okay. What was your goal and motivation for choosing your first ILP goal? I want you to take a look at the rubric. Talk with your partner or mentor. What do you need to do on this slide? And what's the difference between a 2 and a 3?
You won't be lacking information. Challenge over you. Helps them understand.
What's the key piece that we want to hear for your motivation?
Maybe your growth.
2 reasons.
What?
Oh, your growth.
The growth based on what document or
The
tool?
continuum.
That's so important
The
piece.
continuum. That's what
So
we're
I'd
just.
write that down in your notes. We want to hear about the continuum. One of the elements that I identified for my goal was standard 1.4. I scored myself as emerging in August. I realized that I may make better connections with my students and the curriculum that we're teaching. I wanted to work on my ability to connect them to prior knowledge, their culture, their background, and their interests. All right, so to get a 1, you talk about the continuum. To get a 2, you need to add something else. What would be an example of something else?
Like a prior evaluation said, like an administrator also noted that I should look at this last year or whatever.
Perfect. But when would the evaluation have occurred?
Within the school, the beginning of the year?
Before
The prior year.
August of 24. So you're looking at the spring of 24 or the fall of 23, right? Because you're talking about, this is why I picked this element. It was identified in my evaluation last year, right? Not this year, but last year. All right, what's another one that you could use?
any other role you had, like if somebody was maybe like a teacher's aide or something and they pulled strategies that they used when we did that, like I used this with my students or something like that, maybe?
That could be, your prior experience is certainly a valid one, right? When I was a student teacher, I struggled with, when I saw this teacher use this strategy, I tried it, and boy, oh my gosh, it blew up on me, but they made it look so good, so I wanted to master it. Your teacher performance expectations, or TPAs, those are also loosely tied to the standards. Yeah. Site or district initiatives. So if your district, like last year at Torres High School, they made a big deal about analyzing data to drive instruction, so it looked at Standard 5. And some of my teachers wrote goals to that. In fact, Torres told their teachers they had to write their evaluation goal based on Standard 5. So they made it part of their IEP. Okay. Questions about that? What's the most important piece you want to hear about?
Continue.
The continue. Okay. And then we're going to erase this little spot that says 1 slide max. Pathways. What specific pathways were most impactful to your teaching practice and why? How many pathways did you write for one of your goals? At least 3. You probably wrote more. How many of you guys write?
More than 3.
Do you remember?
I don't know the exact number.
4, 5, 6, 5. We want to hear about 3 of them. The ones that really moved the needle, the ones that made the biggest impact. So it could be my student survey, it could be the self-videos, it could be mentor observations, it could be peer observations, it could be a Kagan that you went to, classroom management that you went to. There's all kinds of things that you did to learn about your goal. Which ones moved the needle? So in thinking about your ILP number 1, with your person sitting next to you, think about 3 pathways, and I want you to write them down, that you really got excited about, that made a big difference for you. It can be about 5 minutes.
Using the and then I added which I'll probably do. I know I have evidence for that one. I'll probably do this one.
You know, like
Somebody else who went to they like they always
like, you know, yeah, like
Their actual reactions.
All that it was. Well, I think your mindset has changed this year. What you thought about So what do you think that allowed to take place between you and your students in your relationship? Like just getting consistent on
It's just it's a more
All right, 3, 2, 1. All right. Measurable outcomes. This is where your data comes in. So we want to know, did you meet your outcome? If you did, great. Tell us about that. And if you didn't, tell us about that as well and what changes you would make. So we're looking at the overall class average, right? Or whatever it is that you started with in August. And you said by March they will be 15% better or whatever it is. They're going to score 3 more points on the NWA or 25% better on the rubric. Did you meet your goal? We'd also like to hear about your focus students at this point. So this is where the focus students come into play. How did they do? With your partner, discuss the difference between a 2 and a 3 for your outcomes.
That's probably what
Or like, oh, I gotta say like the same thing.
Even just the relationship.
Yeah,
it's probably be like, just here's my success, and then just
He does all those things.
Again, it's
like, no,
Never heard come on. I've gotten actually better.
yeah, and then tolerable,
Over the years.
the top part.
It did come natural. So you're good.
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, now we're back to wash, rinse, and repeat. Your shampoo bottle still say that? I haven't used one in a long time. All right, so once again, we're asking you to go back and tell us about your continuum. Part 2, why did you choose your second goal? I picked standard 2.4, or I picked standard 5.3. Wanted to look at the data better and understand my students' needs and particularly create a response to intervention. I don't know how to do that, so that's why I did it. Okay? But again, adding in maybe evaluation, prior experience, site, district initiative. All right. Once again, we're at the pathways. Your pathways for goal 2 may have differed from goal 1. Most of them do. What are 3 pathways you want to highlight for goal number 2? Talk about that with your mentor.
So my one this would be your one because it's the benchmark. Would be way
So my pathways for this one were,
So we're actually trying to develop
Definitely we're going to see data
sequence.
Let's say that so there was an assignment, did some activities associated with learning, disclosed assignment, you would say, I use these strategies. I'm blown away by the results right now. Then you consider that it's added to some of the assessments. You know that well, I scored actually exceeded my goal by 20%. Right? So if there's some pathway that would be
Right, I'm playing for a higher one. Now I'm doing
I realized I wasn't talking to students because
see through.
so I did these
Right, now we have enough songs.
Oh, that's what we did in testing. And I remember all people doing organic work.
So I'm saying that, but so it's like, how can I somebody else is looking at besides we like read.
Video.
So I have my feet.
I'm green.
For like one,
I showed videos of my kids filmed. Okay, it says I didn't look out loud.
You can, or audio.
No idea. Okay.
You gotta remember, it's gonna be like 45 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. It was a short little thing. Okay, okay. I was just like trying to figure out what to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. 3, 2, 1. So a couple questions came up talking about pathways. One was, is this a place where I can show student work? The answer is yes. Is this a place where I instituted a strategy? I started using Kaboots. Did it make a difference on quiz scores? And I wanted to show that. Yes. Dan was asking about, can I show a video or audio? Because music teacher, yes, although we got to keep it short. All part of your pathways of demonstrating to the panel how I tried this and boy did it make a difference, and here's what it did for my students. And then it segues really well into your outcomes, right? As a result of doing this all semester, I believe that my students did not only did they meet the goal, but it was 20% better than I expected. Right? Because you were looking at this as teacher growth through the lens of student outcomes. Well, you did such a great job here, and we can see the little pieces of it, and then the big picture when we get to our outcomes. Okay, any questions so far? All right. In what ways did you build relationships based on the knowledge of each student's assets and needs? So here's what I want you to do. On that question, I want you to underline, how did it impact the classroom environment? We heard wonderful stories last year of all the ways that teachers are building relationships. What we didn't hear is how it impacted the classroom. And interview after interview, or I'm sorry, presentation after presentation, the panel was knocking teachers down because they didn't answer the second question. So you got to answer them both. We think this is the perfect opportunity to talk about your student surveys. That's a great source. It says here that in the rubric you need how many examples?
2.
2. We think 1 would be, at least the survey showed me that I wasn't connected with my students. These are the things I did. We did the survey again, and these are the results. You can even show that in your slide presentation. So we think that that is one great piece of evidence. It's not required, but we think that's where it's appropriate to put it in there. Okay. I will caution you, because we were looking for 2 stories. This isn't really the opportunity to say I had a really hard vice principal, and that was, about a built relationship, right? We want to talk about the students and how you built relationships with them. Okay. So you can tell us that you were the ticket taker at all the basketball games, or you went to all the plays. You had a secret handshake for every student, like Ron Clark walking in the room. You connected with them by getting to know them culturally, right? One of the things we did was we created a world map, and I had students go home and talk about their ancestry. And then the next day they came in and put a stick pin in the country that they believed that their parents identified as their home ancestral lands. And then later on I incorporated that information when we talked about stories, and we had a specific country that was mentioned. We would look at the map, and then that child would kind of have an understanding of, oh, they're talking about, so that's the story that we're looking for. Okay? 2 examples, 2 stories. How have you grown as an educator since August? And what supports your conclusion? All right, so looking at the rubric, what do you think the big picture is going to be once again? The continuum. You haven't touched the continuum since April of last year, unless you're ECO. It's in your Google folder from last year. So we didn't do it in the fall, so you haven't seen it in a year. And the assignment is due, help me out, April 11th?
Yeah.
If you, listen carefully, if you transferred to me from another district and you don't have your self-assessment, and I haven't solved that problem for you yet, email me tomorrow and we'll see what we can do to fix that. It's a possibility that you have it from your old program. It may not look the same, but at least we get the same vibe. Okay.
So should we have 2 dates on the continuum or 3?
3.
Yeah, okay. Because I was like, somehow I did an extra one. 3, okay.
So you did one in the fall last year,
Yes.
one in the spring last year, and one right now.
I did one last January, one spring, and then, because I started in January. And then,
We should have exempted you from the this fall. You would have just been able to.
well, you know.
But
Yeah, so just leave my 3 alone. Okay.
If they're for different districts,
I'm
and they did it in the fall, we would just have 2, right?
correct.
Is that fine? I mean, it got marked off.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know where they were at in their first year. So where did you do induction your first
It
year?
was rumor said.
And do you have any records of the self-assessment you might have done then?
If we do, I don't have access to it anymore. And that's what we said last fall, and the year said it was okay, we just did one in September.
I'm glad I said that. It sounds like.
Well, I mean, you guys marked off your assignments. Good, so.
Well, I accept.
All right, so talking about comparing your assessment from last April to now, or last fall to now, is particularly the standards that you identified in your ILP. That's what we're looking for, right? So if you said 2.4 in your ILP, then we want to look at the continuum and show growth in that standard, okay? And so you're going to share the continuum, right? Now we have 2 goals, so you want to tell us 2 ways, right? And another piece of evidence. So this is probably where your evaluation would come into play, or whatever else you can put together if you went to professional growth and you're applying it and you knowing how it worked. Something you didn't know how to do now, but I know how to do today. Okay, so that you have the continuum plus another source. Questions on that one?
If you're using an evaluation, would you want just your overall evaluation now? Or would you need one from prior as well?
Well, we're not going to actually want to see it, right? Because that's real personal.
Right.
But you could say something to refer to it. Say, according to my evaluation in standard 1.4, I grew from emerging to satisfactory, or whatever it is that your rating system is. Or you could even say, my administrator noticed the growth in this standard as reflected on my evaluation. You wouldn't even have to give us the rating. But I wouldn't put that up on a picture, you know what I mean? Because it's very personal, and sometimes there's comments in there, right?
Okay.
All right. Give an example of how you changed a challenge into a win. So don't talk to me about your PLC league that you really struggled with. Talk about your classroom. Okay? I was telling the story yesterday. Met with a teacher last week, and she got to this question of, I don't know what to say about that. So I just started having a conversation with her, and she said, you know, I had one kid, and she described this kid as being a 5th grade behavioral challenge, throwing things, and she learned pretty quickly what set him off. And I said, oh, well, if you can predict behavior, then you can prevent behavior. She goes, I did. Instead of saying his name, I started putting my hand on his shoulder. And the student would respond in such a way that was positive. And then she said, you know what? This student's starting to turn in more completed work now. Oh, that's interesting. Tell me about his friends. Well, he didn't have any friends when he started in 5th grade. Well, where is he at now? Well, he's got 3 buddies that he hangs out with on the playground. And I'm just kind of like, huh. I'm gonna cry right now, but okay. She didn't get it. She had this wonderful story. What she did was he built a relationship with the student, figured out what the triggers were, made some workarounds, and now the student's succeeding. And the challenge was, let's meet with his 6th grade teacher before school gets out so that you can give the set of tools that you learned to the 6th grade teacher so the student continues to thrive. And that's what we're looking for. How did you turn a challenge into a win? And we know that this is where you're going to make the panel cry because you've got this great story to tell us. But it's your story. This should be the funnest part of your presentation. Okay? And I know you all have stories. All right, last one. As you think about the future, what steps will you take to continue to learn and grow professionally? This is pretty simple. Our year 1 teachers, we're telling them what ILPs, goals are you thinking about next year? So we're still making them think about Nick. For you, you have an open carpet to tell us, well, I plan on being superintendent in the next 4 years, and I've got my master's degree. I'm enrolled at the PhD program at Fresno State. You know, that's what you want to do. Because what we're trying to do is prompt you to leave induction with a growth mindset. That will, while you have spent 2, 3, 4, 5 years getting to where you're at now, what will the next 5 years look like? What are you constantly thinking about? And if I were in the classroom, I'd be thinking about AI. And how do I use that? How do I prevent my students from using it? But how do I leverage it to make better lesson plans? And right? Because they talk about AI and my head hurts. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not going back in the classroom. All right. Credentials. We will do your recommendation the first week of June. We'll do your recommendation the first week of June. And it's for everyone that's not a identified, that literally means me sitting in front of a computer and playing with Social Security and birthday and getting all that right. Okay? Here's what I want to tell you. Now is the time to go in and adjust your profile on your CTC website. So if, for instance, the email that you have with CTC still says Fresno State student, you might want to change that. Because as soon as I make a recommendation, it's going to email that address to tell you what the next steps are. Okay, so if you got married and your name changed, I think there's a whole process you have to go through with CTC to get that changed. Not to worry though, we're dealing with you based on your Social Security and birth date, and you're dealing with CTC based on your username and password. They don't really care what your last name is. They care what your numbers are. Okay? I believe the fee is $104.
Something like that, yeah.
$102.50. Be prepared to pay that in June.
What is it?
There is a time period that you can get this done. And it's like 75 days. After that, your recommendation literally evaporates. Okay? And then we have to re-recommend you. Now, let me tell you that that's something I haven't told anyone else yet. I am retiring this year. So if you don't finish your recommendation, I won't be able to fix it for you going forward. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You didn't want to have to deal with all the new changes, right? Good choice, good choice.
I didn't want to go through a site visit again.
You just want to go fishing.
I just got a lot older.
So actually, I will start subbing as an administrator in January. So find out I can retire and sub and make more money.
They pay you well.
$600.
And then you can say, no, yeah, I got a fishing trip, I can't go, right?
And all you gotta do is hold a whistle. I said walk. Yeah. So, super important that when you get that recommendation, that you take care of it right away. Some people forget, and I literally, this week, did 2 recommendations. One of them was 4 years ago. Yeah, right after COVID, and they forgot to do what was booked, and all of a sudden, the county office of Ed's calling saying, hey, your credentials expired, what are you gonna do about it? And all in a panic. Don't panic, just your young person will take care of it, but it'll get harder going forward, so. All right, questions? That's pretty ridiculous, like 5 or something. You guys have a safe trip home.